Okay, so this is for Form 3, which we called blue. Um, this one says assume that the United States economy is currently experiencing long equilibrium. For part A, you had to graph that. You get 1 point for putting the short run equilibrium in the correct spot and 1 point for putting the long run aggregate supply there. Part B has many parts to it. Let's just look at the first two real quick and then we'll take a look at the key. We have assumed that to balance the nation's budget, the government increases personal income taxes by a total of $8 million dollars and that the MPC is zero point 0.8. You have to show how this increase in personal income taxes is going to impact the macroeconomy, and that's going to be an aggregate demand shifter. And that is going to shift aggregate demand to the left because people are going to have to pay more money in taxes. Therefore, they won't be able to spend as much. We also had to calculate how much that would change the GDP as a result. So we have to use the tax multiplier. The tax multiplier in this case would be a -4 because the spending multiplier would be a 5. And think about just 5 plus -4 equals 1. Remember, the other way you can do that is taking the MPC, the negative MPC, and dividing it by the MPS. So a negative zero point 0.8 divided by zero point 0.2 would be a -4. So let's bounce over to the answer key here for a moment and take a look at that. So your original graph should have the long run equilibrium, the PLE. You'll see it's this top bullet point here, and then aggregate demand is shifting to the left for PL1. You're going to get 1 point for shifting the aggregate demand to the left, and then a second point for calculating the GDP change correctly. And remember, you want to show all of your work, even if it's as simple as -4 times 8. We have to put that down on paper to get credit for it. The next section asks us about 3 things that are now going to be impacted by this lower price level and the shift in aggregate demand. So real wages are always challenging for people because we forget that real just simply means adjusted for price level. It's nominal wages that are sticky in the short run. So in the short run, if prices fall, then that means people's real wage is going to go up. That means whatever money you're making is going to have more purchasing power. Transfer payments are going to also increase because that means that we're now going to be in a recession and there's going to be more people unemployed. I have this all sort of abbreviated very in a tidy fashion here. I would expect that you would use full sentences and not abbreviate, but this is just a key so that we know what the correct answers are. So transfer payments, again, are those low income safety net programs where the government is transferring money from the nation's treasury to people. People have earned this money through taxes that they've paid while they were working. They're just now receiving it during this time period. So transfer payments are going to increase. And then the last piece is the natural rate of unemployment. And the natural rate of unemployment, nothing's going to happen to that. It's always going to be 4 to 6%. Some people say, oh, that's a trick question. It's not really a trick. It's just, do you understand that 4 to 6% is when we only have frictional and structural, and it's when we have a fully employed economy. Moving to part 4, we said that suppose that the government opted to cut spending instead of increasing taxes, calculate the amount of spending that would be required to result in an equal change in the real GDP. And this was tricky because you had to do some division that maybe you were a little uncomfortable with doing, and it wasn't a whole number. I have a sneaking suspicion that because our AP exam is going to be 100% FRQ, that you got to get ready for maybe some numbers that aren't going to be so tidy. So I was really proud to see so far that people are doing well with this. So we needed to change the aggregate demand $32 million. So 32 million equals 5, the spending multiplier, times what amount of spending. So if we just divide 32 by 5, we come out with 6.4. So they would need to do a $6.4 million cut in spending in order to have the same impact on the GDP. Now we have to do the long run adjustment. So the government is going to allow this economy to adjust in the long run, and then we have to show it on the graph. So if we go back up to the top, we'll notice that what happened was is that aggregate demand fell, and now we're in a recessionary gap. What's going to happen if we leave it alone? Remember, read the graph. What do I know about input prices? They're lower. What do I know about